Hi everyone, it's Miss Rose. Let's go over the week 24 quiz on special right triangles. Let's do the 45, 45, 90 ones first because I think a lot of people find those to be a little bit easier. So we've got this first one is a 45, 45, 90. This second one is a 45, 45, 90. And then this sixth one is a 45, 45, 90. Those are the isosceles ones. So if your two legs don't match up with each other, then you know that you made a mistake. So we've got for the first one, the hypotenuse is 12 root 2. So the two legs, I can just take the root 2 off of the hypotenuse and the two legs are going to be 12 and 12. Congruent because the triangle's isosceles. All right, let's take a look at the second one. I gave you one of the legs, so you get the other leg for free. 11, 11, and then the hypotenuse is 11 root 2. So those two problems really match up with each other nicely. The two legs are congruent, and then the hypotenuse is that same length as the leg times root 2. The more challenging one is this last one. What happens when there isn't a root 2 on the hypotenuse? Well, then you have to divide by root 2. How do you divide by root 2? You divide by 2, 13, and put a root 2 on it. Make sure that the legs are smaller than the hypotenuse. If you end up with 26 root 2 and 26 root 2, that doesn't make sense because the hypotenuse has to be bigger. And if you had 13 and 13, the hypotenuse wouldn't be 26, it would be 13 root 2. So if the hypotenuse doesn't have a root 2 on it, then the two legs do. All right, now let's move on to our 30, 60, 90. So the first one is a straightforward example. I gave you the short leg. If you double it, you'll get the hypotenuse. Then I always go back to the short leg. If you put a root 3 on it, don't know what happened there. All right, put a root 3 on it, and that's the length of the long leg. So let's use that as a model to help us with this next one. If the hypotenuse is 28, we want to take half of that, and that'll be our short leg. And then always go back to the short leg, put a root 3 on it, and that will be our long leg. All right, this last one is the most complicated because I gave you the long leg, but it doesn't have a root 3 on it. So same kind of thing as we had to do with the last 45, 45, 90 problem. We have to divide. 24 divided by root 3. Well, how do you divide by root 3? You divide by 3 and put a root 3 on it. And then always go back to the short leg and double that, and that will give you the hypotenuse. So there's all of our special triangles. Then the next two problems said, what are the angle measures? Well, let me do B first because I recognize those two congruent legs and I say to myself, that's a 45, 45, 90. So Y is 45 degrees. With the other problem, I see that I'm given one leg and I'm given a hypotenuse. It looks isosceles, but it's not because if it was isosceles, it would be 5, 5, 5 root 2. So whenever you have the leg that's half the length of the hypotenuse, it's a 30, 60, 90. So it would be 5, 5 root 3, and 10. So it's not really drawn to scale, but the 5 would be the shorter leg. So the smaller angle always goes opposite the shorter leg. So X would have to be the 30-degree angle. The angle across from the 5 root 3 would be the 60, but I didn't ask for that one. I just asked for the 30-degree angle. So sometimes people know that that one's a 30, 60, 90, but they don't know whether the angle should be the 30 or the 60. But the smaller angle goes opposite the shorter side. All right, last but not least, this one required you to put a few ideas together. So we had the hypotenuse of this 30, 60, 90 triangle was 16. So the short leg would be half of that, 8. So X is 8. The long leg, it didn't ask for it, but the long leg would be 8 root 3. But we don't even need that one. All right, then the other triangle is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which you couldn't do until you figured out that X was 8. Once you know that, oh, and I know it's 45, 45, 90 because those are congruent angles. So if they're congruent angles and it's a right triangle, then they have to be 45 and 45. All right, so now that I know that this leg is 8, the other leg is 8, which makes the hypotenuse 8 root 2. So that's your Y. So let me know if you have any questions and give the retake a try. Thanks. Bye.